The laughter hit me first, loud, glittery, and aimed right over my head. Our apartment was packed wall to wall with people clinking champagne glasses, talking over each other, and congratulating her. My wife, Madison Blake, stood in the center of it all, glowing like she'd stepped straight out of a lifestyle magazine. Her new department head, Derek Shaw, was right beside her, his arm brushing her sleeve every time he leaned in to say something. I played host without being part of the party, passing hors d'oeuvres, topping off wine glasses, smiling just enough to pass for genuine. My parents had taken a front spot, watching Madison as if she was their daughter instead of their daughter-in-law. To the real breadwinner, my dad boomed, raising his glass. Everyone laughed. Even Madison glanced over her shoulder at me with that sly, sparkling grin of hers. By the time the last guest left, the living room looked like the morning after a parade. Half-empty glasses, napkins in the wrong places, and the faint smell of expensive perfume still hanging in the air. Madison disappeared into the kitchen and came back holding a gift bag. "This is for you," she said, handing it over like a peace offering. Inside was a white t-shirt. Bold black letters across the front read, "Loser of the house." Her smirk lingered a little too long. "It's just a joke, Ethan. Loosen up." I folded it neatly, but my hands didn't shake. "Hilarious," I said evenly. That's when I noticed her phone, left face up on the counter. A notification lit the screen. Congrats, babe. Last night was unforgettable." She snatched it up in one smooth move, swiping the message away before looking back at me with the same easy smile she'd worn all night. I didn't call her out. I didn't slam a door. I just stood there, thinking if she wanted to show, I'll give her one she'll never forget. The next morning, I waited until she'd left for work before making 2 calls. The first was to Miles Harper, an old college friend who now handled cybersecurity for a Fortune 500. We hadn't talked in months, but when I once got his sister a job interview, he promised I could cash that chip anytime. The second was to Dana Ruiz, a private investigator I'd worked with years ago when a supplier tried to shortchange my fabrication shop. She had a reputation for results and for never leaving loose ends. "Miles," I said when he picked up, "I need metadata. Calendar entries, email headers, no actual messages, just the skeleton." "That's clean enough," he replied. "Send me whatever you've got." Dana's voice was calm as always. "Names. Madison Blake," I said. "And I think the other is Derek Shaw. Married. 2 kids. Give me 72 hours, she said. "You'll know everything worth knowing." That night, Madison came home humming, dropped her heels by the door, and kissed my cheek. She smelled like a perfume I'd never seen in our bathroom. She poured herself a glass of wine and told me about her upcoming corporate gala. "Employees only," she said. "You be bored," she added, brushing it off. I smiled. Maybe you're right. But inside, I was already building the stage where her spotlight would turn into a searchlight. Before everything started to rot, our life ran like clockwork. I ran Harper & Sons Fabrication, a small but steady shop that built custom metalwork for architects and contractors. My days smelled like welding sparks and oil, my evenings like roasted chicken or pasta I made from scratch. We had Friday night movies on the couch, Sunday morning pancakes, and little rituals that felt like glue holding us together. Madison's world was the opposite: corporate dinners, high-pressure presentations, and a constant orbit around the next big step. She thrived under fluorescent lights and boardroom tension. I loved that drive once. I thought it meant we were building something together. But somewhere along the way, her hunger for recognition grew into something with sharper teeth. It started small, lingering smiles at her boss's jokes, late night, emergency meetings, new dresses that never made it into our shared laundry. She started guarding her phone like it was a bank vault. When Dana called 3 days later, she didn't waste words. "I've got your proof, Ethan." She emailed a folder, time-stamped photos of Madison and Derek holding hands at a conference, a kiss in the shadow of a hotel awning, receipts for champagne and strawberries delivered to a downtown suite. The damning shot? A keycard log showing her entering his room at 12:11 a.m. and leaving at 5:37 a.m., the night before her promotion party. Minutes later, Miles messaged me. Patterns confirmed. Late-night email logins from 2 separate hotels. Calendar blocks titled Team Strategy, Confidential. I sat at my desk, the hum of my shop's machines in the background, and let the anger settle into something cold and sharp. If I confronted her now, it would just be a fight, messy, loud, and easy for her to spin into a misunderstanding. I didn't want rage. I wanted consequence. I began building my blueprint. Step 1. Compile evidence into a clean, undeniable package. Step 2. Deliver it at the exact moment her reputation was at its peak. Step 3. Let her own words bury her. That night, I set my phone on the counter while she talked about mentorship and trust in her team. I recorded everything. Her praise for Derek, her speeches about integrity. Not because I needed it legally, but because I wanted her to hear herself later, knowing every syllable was hypocrisy. The gala would be in 4 days at the Aldergrand Ballroom, a high-profile event with the company's top brass, press, and investors. Perfect. I drafted an email to Caroline West, the CEO, Adrian Cho, head of HR, and Elaine Shaw, Derek's wife. Subject: urgent compliance and conduct review before gala. Inside, I kept it short. Links to an encrypted folder, date stamp files, zero commentary. The facts would speak louder than anything I could say. I didn't hit send. Not yet. For the next 3 nights, I acted like the same loyal husband I'd always been. I cooked her favorite dinners, asked about her rehearsals, and even massaged her shoulders when she said the stress was crushing her. She didn't notice the shift in me, the way I was studying her, not listening. She thought she was untouchable. I was going to prove she was only standing on a stage because I hadn't kicked the supports out yet. The night of the gala, the Aldergrand Ballroom looked like it had been dipped in gold. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting light across white linen tables and rows of polished silverware. Waiters floated between clusters of executives, topping off champagne flutes, while a string quartet played something refined enough to make the air feel expensive. Madison arrived in a fitted emerald gown, her hair swept up in a style that probably took 2 hours to perfect. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, Derek glued to her side like they'd been paired for the event. His hand hovered close to her back, the kind of almost touch that says this is mine without a single word. I hadn't been invited, of course. Employees only, she'd said with a sweet smile. But I knew enough about event security to know there were always side entrances. I slipped in through a service door with a borrowed catering jacket, then shed it in the stairwell. Underneath, I wore a dark suit that blended into the crowd. No one noticed me. From the back wall, I watched her charm the CEO, laugh with junior staff, and lean into Derek's whispered comments. It would have been easy to feel my blood boil, but instead I felt calm. I had my moment in my pocket, ready to detonate. At exactly 8 p.m., the MC tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we honor one of our brightest leaders, someone whose dedication and vision has shaped the future of this company. Please welcome Madison Blake. The applause rolled through the room like a wave. Madison stepped up to the podium, her smile perfectly measured, her voice smooth as silk. She launched into a speech about trust, teamwork, and building a workplace where integrity was the foundation. I almost laughed. While she spoke, I slid my phone from my jacket pocket, opened the pre-drafted email to Caroline West, Adrian Cho, and Elaine Shaw, and tapped send. The effect was almost immediate. At the HR table, Adrian's phone lit up. He frowned, scrolled, and froze. Caroline, the CEO, glanced at her screen, and her expression hardened into something unshakable. Elaine, seated in the front row, read slowly, her face draining of color before her jaw set like concrete. Madison hadn't noticed yet, but the ripples began, people checking their phones, whispering, shifting in their chairs. The quartet's music faded into the background hum of murmurs. Then Madison's phone, set to vibrate, buzzed against the podium. She glanced down mid-sentence. I saw it. The flicker of confusion, the tightening of her grip on the edges of her speech notes. Her smile faltered for the first time all night. Caroline West rose from her seat, each step deliberate. Ms. Blake, she said evenly, her voice carrying across the room, we need to pause the program. The silence was deafening. Derek looked like he'd just swallowed glass. Elaine stood, her voice calm but ice cold. My children are at home, Derek. We'll talk later. The string quartet stopped playing. The air in the ballroom was thick with the sound of careers cracking. And that's when I decided to step into the light. The click of my shoes on the polished floor drew every head in the room. Madison's eyes locked on me, wide and pale. "Ethan," she breathed. I stopped a few feet from the stage, reached into my jacket, and pulled out the folded white t-shirt she'd given me days earlier. I held it up so everyone could read. "Loser the house." She called me this. I said clearly, my voice steady enough for the microphone to catch without effort. But here's what she didn't tell you. The only reason she's standing here is because she and her boss cheated their way to this moment, both professionally and personally. I laid the shirt neatly on the stage at her feet. "Consider this my gift back to you, Madison. You'll need it now." Security moved in. Derek was already being guided toward the exit by Elaine, who didn't look back. Madison stood frozen, her notes trembling in her hands, the whole room watching as the life she'd curated fell apart in real time. I turned and walked out, my heartbeat steady, the sound of whispers chasing me into the night. By the time I woke the next morning, the videos had already gone viral. Clips from the gala were plastered across LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere. Madison, standing under the spotlight with the t-shirt at her feet, was the kind of scandal the internet devours. Headlines were blunt. Integrity Gala turns into integrity scandal. From Leader of the Year to HR Nightmare in 90 seconds. My phone buzzed nonstop. Madison had called 6 times before 7 a.m. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. "You misunderstood everything. We were just close friends. How could you humiliate me like this? You've ruined my career." The most telling one came at 1:12 p.m. "Please, I don't know where else to go." I didn't reply. This wasn't about punishing her in private anymore. The damage was already public, and it was damage she'd chosen when she crossed the line. By noon, Caroline West announced in an internal memo that both Madison and Derek had been placed on indefinite administrative leave pending a full compliance review. In corporate speak, that meant their careers at Westbridge Solutions were effectively over. But Madison wasn't ready to go quietly. That evening, a burner social media account popped up, spinning a story about a jealous husband who hacked into her accounts to frame her. It gained some traction until screenshots of the hotel receipts, conference photos, and time-stamped keycard logs surfaced online. Dana had been smart enough to pass the evidence to a journalist who specialized in corporate fraud. The counterattack fizzled before it could catch flame. Her professional collapse was only the first domino. Elaine Shaw filed for divorce within days, moving her assets into a trust before Derek could touch them. Madison's parents, who'd once toasted her success louder than anyone, found out she'd funneled part of their retirement investment into Derek's side venture. That money was now frozen under investigation. They threw her out of their home. The woman who had stood on a ballroom stage under a chandelier now found herself living in a short-term rental off the freeway, the kind of place where the carpets never feel clean no matter how much you vacuum. A week later, she asked to meet. I agreed, but only in a public place. She showed up to the cafe in jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back, makeup just enough to hide how little she'd been sleeping. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as she sat down. Her voice was quiet, but there was no mistaking the desperation under it. "For what?" I asked. "The cheating, or the lying after?" Her eyes darted away. "For letting things get out of control. I wanted to feel important, Ethan. Like I was more than just—" She stopped herself. "Just my wife." I said flatly. "That's not what I—" She broke off again, frustrated. "I didn't think it would go this far." "It went exactly as far as you took it," I said. "You didn't trip into those hotel rooms, Madison. You walked in." She pulled a folded paper from her bag. "It's a separation agreement. I'll sign it. You keep the condo, the shop, everything. I don't want to fight you." It was almost anticlimactic. I'd imagined anger, excuses, maybe even tears. But this was just hollow. We signed the papers right there at the table. No drama. No big farewell speech. Just 2 signatures and a silence that felt bigger than the room. When she left, I didn't watch her walk away. The investigation wrapped faster than I expected. Westbridge Solutions released a short statement confirming serious violations of policy and fiduciary responsibility by Madison Blake and Derek Shaw. Their contracts were terminated, and the matter was referred to state authorities. There was no victory parade for me. No one was going to send flowers to the man who brought down 2 careers. But I didn't need applause. My win was in the silence that followed. Elaine Shaw sold her half of a jointly owned property and vanished from the city, her divorce finalized in record time. Derek, stripped of his title, tried to start a consulting firm, but word travels fast in corporate circles. No one wanted the stink of scandal on their ledger. Madison? She disappeared from the spotlight entirely. No more networking events. No more galas. A former client of mine mentioned spotting her at a nonprofit downtown, teaching budgeting workshops to women re-entering the workforce. I didn't know if it was penance or just survival, but at least it was honest work. Weeks later, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. The message was short. Hey, it's Madison. I'm not asking to talk. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry for what I did to you. I'm working on being someone better. I typed back. I hope you are. Take care. That was it. No grudge. No opening for more. With her gone, my focus shifted back to Harper and Sons Fabrication. I hired 2 new apprentices, expanded into a bigger workshop, and landed a contract for a custom spiral staircase at a boutique hotel. On the day we finished the install, I stood on the mezzanine watching sunlight catch the brushed steel and thought, this was mine. Built honestly. No one could take it from me. I even brought back my Tuesday trivia nights with friends. No whispers about Madison. No questions about the gala. Just laughter, cheap beer, and the kind of company that doesn't need a stage to prove they matter. One Saturday, I found the old t-shirt shoved in the back of my closet. Loser of the house. I took a thick black marker and crossed out loser, writing owner above it in bold block letters. Then I wore it while repainting the living room. It didn't feel like revenge anymore. It felt like closure. The truth is, the most satisfying ending wasn't the night she fell in front of everyone. It was months later when I stood in my quiet, clean apartment, coffee in hand, looking out at a city that had moved on, while I had finally moved forward. Because real victory isn't the moment they lose everything. It's the moment you realize you've already built something they can't touch.